The White Saviors is a Canadaland podcast series exploring the controversial We charity and digging into the scandal about a charity that, as the series describes, was doing well when it was supposed to be doing good. Canadaland editor-in-chief Jesse Brown joins us on Morning Live. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob.
Thanks so much for joining us this morning. We've been looking forward to hearing from you. This story and the current scandal is tip of the iceberg stuff. Long before we became familiar, you've been working on this for a number of years, but the story was killed. Tell me, what was the first whiff that something wasn't right with the Kielburger brothers, the charity, and what actions were taken to suppress your story?
Well, this started as a routine news story where a documentary about voluntourism got pulled off of the air of the CBC at the last minute. And I dug into that and found out that it was the We organization exerting influence on the CBC, and they actually were able to get the documentary edited to remove any critical content. Once we published that story, sources started to come forward with these astonishing tales of what was happening within the We organization. And so that started a 6-year journey of investigating. And the more we dug, the more we found. They hired private investigators to spy on me and my kids to find out what school my kids go to for some reason. There have been Twitter bot attacks on us, hack attacks, denial of service attacks on our website, many legal threats, 5 different lawyers, different law firms, hundreds of pages of obfuscatory. I mean, Canadians remember when the We organization was first asked, did you ever pay members of the Trudeau family before the Trudeau government gave you this huge grant? They originally said, no, we never paid them. That turned out to not be true. So a lot of the stuff that they were sending us in response to our questions was simply not true. And the more we investigated, the more we realized that they had good reason to be hiding their tracks, to be hiding things that were happening within their organization. And all of that is being compiled into this astonishing podcast, The White Saviors.
How were they lining their pockets?
Well, it's you've got a family here, a middle-class family. The parents are retired school teachers, and since getting into the nonprofit game, they've amassed a fortune that is no less than the Kielburger family, $30 million. It's a matter of great controversy. They'll say that this is all legitimate, and that it was the parents simply flipped houses to amass this major fortune. We know that the embrace of the blending of business with charity and the embrace of what they call social enterprise has generated millions and millions of dollars for private companies, not charities, private companies that are owned by the Kielburgers. And as they wind down, as they put it, their operations in Canada, the assets of those social enterprises remain the property of the Kielburger family. So this all came from their work in philanthropy.
Yeah. Now, how did you find out about these ownership links?
Well, we did an extensive investigation in Canada, in Kenya, business registry documents. We actually got our hands on bank statements from their accounts, property records. Most of the wealth we were able to determine from property records of housing and real estate that the Kielburger parents bought under a slew of different corporate entities, numbered companies using relatives' names, flipped the properties. Again, they will tell you that this is all completely legitimate and has nothing to do with the We charity. We found otherwise. They were renting out some of this property to We charity. There were all kinds of interminglings where the chief financial officer of the We organization was involved in the property, machinations of the Kielburger family. So it's an incredibly complicated web, 32 different entities, charities, businesses, numbered companies, shell companies. They've been at this for a while. To me, this is a story about these financial matters, but it's also a story, like, if you think about Greta Thunberg, that's sort of similar to who Craig Kielburger was.
Very much so, the Greta Thunberg of the 90s. Now, and he started out, his first cause de célèbre was actually child labor. But now, some of the aforementioned companies that you're talking about that they're associated with, there's accusations that these companies are actually engaging in child labor, and they're endorsing the companies.
That's correct. In fact, it's proven the companies acknowledge, companies like Hershey and Unilever, that they use child labor at an industrial scale. So if you think about it, it's like Greta Thunberg partnering with the fossil fuel industry some decades later. Craig Kielburger similarly was an international celebrity as a child for this wonderful cause of fighting child labor. and he was embraced by Oprah. He met with the Pope, the Queen, the Clintons. And some decades later, he's built this with his brother and his parents, this massive organization.
Well, you talk about
that is
the
not only
idolatry. It's in some of the staffers that you talk to. It's almost cult-like. We just have a couple of minutes left, but there was a leaked phone call that came your way, and it's actually the latest podcast. The podcast is titled "Crimes in Kenya." Tell us about this.
We obtained a recording of Mark Kielburger on the phone with the most senior employee of the WE organization at the time in Kenya, Peter Ruhiu. This guy ran a large operation for the Kielburgers, and the two are just talking openly about bribing Kenyan officials, about there's death threats that Peter repeatedly makes towards his colleague. And Mark listens on and says, okay. It doesn't seem to faze him or be a surprise to him. He says, how can I help? What can I do about this? He claims that he was actually involved in a sting operation with the Kenyan police trying to entrap his own employee. Peter Ruhiu, in turn, says that he was the one whistleblowing, telling the Kenyan government about Mark Kielburger's financial misconduct. So on the current episode of The White Saviors, we give all of these conflicting reports and these contradictory reports to actually get to the truth of what happened. What is not disputed is that their operation in Kenya had a serious crime problem and that charity money was stolen.
Now, they had a luxury 5-star resort there, and they were actually inviting celebrities and corporate figures there to see what they were doing. And this is where the corruption takes place?
Well, there's a string of 5-star luxury resorts. I don't know many other charitable organizations that have a string of that own their own 5-star luxury resorts around the world. Some of what they were doing, is they would say perfectly normal. It's perfectly fine to be a travel agency and a charity. It's perfectly normal to wine and dine wealthy donors, corporate CEOs. This is just the way charity is done, which part of our series is about that, about how charity itself has become a very strange corporate philanthropic
wish we had
hybrid.
more time, but Jesse, thanks for sharing some of it, and we will share all the links so people can check out the podcast 5-part series, The White Saviors. Thank you.
Thank you.